not your enemy.
So, 30-year member who walked away, we're going with Tory. Tory, thanks for calling.
Hey, thanks for everything. Thank you, KFI. I love you guys.
So, 30 years, how much money?
At least $500,000.
Oh!
Holy Jesus.
At least it's a money-making machine. You got to know that. It's not.
What did it do for you, and why did you leave?
You know, part of it, a lot of it is the pure, you know, you get in, the people are really friendly, you can walk in the door and it seems like, wow, everything's great. It's sort of like a mind-controlled train. You get on it, and you think you're just going to do some of it, and then, you know, you can't get off, basically. Everybody's like, wait a minute, you know, you're just on the first car, there's another 200 cars.
Did you have a little naval uniform?
I did join the Sea Org.
I was going to ask you, were you a member of Sea Org?
I was in the Sea Org. I have epilepsy. They made me get off my medicine. I was having grand mal seizures, and I would have probably died, except my mother intervened and said, I'm going to tell you something when I couldn't remember a date I went on because I was so screwed up. And she said, I'm going to tell you something. Dianetics is not going to fix this. And if a doctor doesn't call me today saying you're on your medication, I personally am going to fly out there, and Scientology won't ever forget your mom. And I knew my mom, and I was like, all right, deal. And I got back on my medication, and I still fought them for 30 years on it because even though they have their little signs and they'll say, oh, no, that's not true. We have people go to the doctor. Yeah, because I fought them for 30 years and took them to the carpet on it. But the tech that they believe in, that John Travolta, Tom Cruise, those guys stand by, says you can handle any physical illness with their tech.
So did you see in this three-part series?
I mean, that's one of the words. Like that's part of the
their technology. It's like they don't really have a religion. Like you think of religion, God, whatever, higher powers. You believe in something. They don't believe in anything. They believe you're covered in dead space aliens. That's it.
So did you witness any of the physical violence in the upper management that the St. Petersburg Times relates in this three-part series?
I wasn't there that long. I was there 6 months, and I needed my medication. They kicked me out because of it. So I wasn't there long enough, but I certainly know people who were beat up. I've talked to them. I've asked them about it. I have no doubt about it. And I did witness David Miscavige himself because I was on their second to the top level, and he was there. And he's a really creepy guy. I wrote him for 7 years saying, you know, what I'm doing, I was on this level, and, you know, you couldn't get off. And I know they'll say, oh, she could leave any time. But it's very tricky how to explain mind control. It really is. But, all I can say is I must sound like a loon to you. And
No.
It's like anybody could do that. But, you get in a group like that, everyone's like reinforcing, this is great. I mean, I went over to tell their security guards 2 nights ago about these guys getting beat up. What do you think they did?
Put you on the e-meter.
They made you confess your sins, and they wrote it down in a memo.
They just laughed.
Did they?
Sure, right. Like David Miscavige. Like there's no potential possibility that they can think that he would do something wrong.
But now let me get this straight. If not for the medicine, you would have stayed in the church. Quote.
No, it's not. No. I was also in a top secret mafia where I was opening up phony accounts that my best friend and auditor counselor had talked me into. And any totalitarian organization works like this. The right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing, right?
Oh yeah, you're so paranoid about people trying to bring you down.
You just don't get you're doing something bad. You honestly, because they just have you factor out and do a little bit. Do you see what I mean?
Everyone's doing a tiny little brushstroke of the bigger painting. But now, what did you do for a living? I mean, you had a real job.
I've worked in sales most of my life.
And not in Scientology sales, but in some retail thing,
well, I actually,
real estate or something?
Both. I did work. Scientology has a thing called WISE, where they do their management technology, and they rope in a lot of very successful business people saying they'll just help them increase their statistics. But basically, the bottom goal of WISE, for anybody out there listening, is to get you on the bridge to total freedom. And if that means getting rid of your wife or kids, that's part of it.
Yeah, but were you on the bridge?
Of course, I was OT7.
You were OT7.
And how many levels? What's the highest level?
OT8, right? Yeah.
Which my husband was, and he no longer will speak to me ever again, nor any of my friends.
So at OT7, do you learn about Xenu putting all the souls in the volcano?
No. You learn about Xenu at OT3. OT7 is just more of a magnification of it.
Okay, now let me ask you a question. Okay. Is Scientology something that just didn't work for you, or is this something that is very dangerous for anyone who's involved with it?
Okay, it isn't that it didn't work for me. It worked for me fine until the top level. That's where I realized this is a bunch of horse shit. But did it really work? No, it really didn't. They have a few workable things, but they're things that you could buy down at Barnes & Noble for $20, right? It is a very dangerous thing in that they do.
Hey, Tory, I have to interrupt you because the audience is wondering why we just jumped ahead in time 7 seconds. The term you use, while I use it left and right off the air, we can't use it on the air.
What is it?
The thing that comes out of a horse's rectum.
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. It probably is. We just can't say it on the air.
I'm sorry.
Little treat for you listening online.
That's part of Scientology. You have really, really bad mouths.
I know. Okay, now
I'm
what is that?
by
Because in the Rolling Stone article, Mike Rinder just swore like a crazy person. In the St. Petersburg Times article, the news spokesperson.
And let's not forget dear Tommy Davis swearing about ecclesiastics. And
Tommy Davis is swearing the whole time. What is it about the church that convinces people to swear? What does that do for them?
Again, it's one of those things, you get in it and you hear it all the time and all of a sudden you're using it and it's very hard to strip off. You just get used to talking that way.
It's just the management culture? It's
That's
like
just the way
going into the mob or something?
Talk that way. I mean, it used to be everyone in Scientology smoked. Why? Because L. Ron Hubbard smoked. So everybody, now they'll say, oh, that's not true, but it is true. Because most of them smoke Cools, and that's what Hubbard smoked.
Weird.
Very weird.
In a naval uniform.
In a naval uniform, beating each other up, doing all-night cakewalks.
But they'll say it's not true. I'm just someone who is, one of these people. But I'll tell you the bottom line on it. Any day, any time, they're my house, okay?
They're what? You cut out there.
No, that's because they're beeping in.
I know, yeah, Xenu is calling you.
Anytime, they're welcome to come over to the house and talk to me. But they will never talk to me, ever.
No, you're out of the club.
Right. But the point is, if I was going to write something about you, even if you were part of my group and then you left, if you were out saying horrible things about me, the least I would want to do is say, okay, what happened? They never asked me what happened.
You're just dead to them. It is like the mob. You just don't exist.
Exactly.
Just
tough.
Including a husband.
We'll write bad things about you they have for 9 years. They've been writing lies about me.
Did you meet your husband in the church or before the church?
I met him in the church, and he was born in the church.
So it's not a big leap that he's married to the church and not you.
No, it isn't. Because it is a little bit because he wasn't really a real true believer. I was.
How can he get to OT8 if he wasn't a true believer?
Because of his mom. His parents got in 1950 with Dianetics, with L. Ron Hubbard, and they were really into it, and they paid his whole way up the bridge. He never bought a thing in Scientology except maybe a couple books. He wasn't really for it that much. I told him when we got married, well, we're going back in the Sea Org, and he said, I'll tell you something, I'm never going in the Sea Org.
Did you spend time on the boat in the Caribbean?
I went on it, and they, again, because of epilepsy, wherever I went, they were always like, stand aside. You can't get on yet until we talk to the medical liaison officer. When I went to their flag land base in Clearwater, I was not allowed onto the base. And this 15-year-old Italian kid said, you're not allowed on the flag land base. And I did the taxi cab driver thing of like, you're talking to me? What's going on, right? Mm-hmm. It turned out a month before I arrived, I didn't find this out till 2000, and this happened in 1989. In 2000, when I left, I asked what happened, and I found out they had enforced some guy getting off of his medication, and he died at the flag land base.
And that place is in Florida. That's not the place here in Southern California?
No, this place is in Vermont. The complex is Vermont, here.
Okay, then what's the place right outside of L.A.? The campus.
Oh, yeah, that's
Hemet, which is the top secret place. None of the Scientologists know where the top secret international organization is, but it's at Hemet, out in Hemet, California, and that's where Miscavige is. He's got all the top execs locked up.
And that's where Tom Cruise goes and gets clear.
He used to. I don't know that he still does because they got the executives locked up in this SP hall.
And there's no signs, there's no directions or anything. It's just out there.
Tory, let me ask you a question. Did you know Lisa McPherson? She was the woman who was kept in the hotel room?
Briefly, not really close, no. But I certainly know of her very well.
And when you met her, do you remember her seeming to be mentally unstable?
She was a real bubbly person, you know what I mean? She seemed like she was pretty happy. It's like